When I was about to be consumed by fire, I didn't contact my husband, who was a firefighter, choosing instead to lie silently on the ground and wait to die, because my husband had locked all the doors and sent all the firefighters out to search for his missing first love. But my husband regretted it. He died by suicide from depression on the day of his wedding to his first love. His last words were that if he had a second chance, he would definitely choose me. However, the same thing happened in my last life. He took my call but ran off to save his first love, ultimately resulting in me, pregnant, being consumed by the fire. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn back home. On the day of the fire was consuming the entire house. I wanted to open the door and escape, but found it was tightly locked from the outside. My hands were getting burned, developing wounds. I fumbled with my phone to call for emergency services, but the call kept cutting out due to poor signal and wouldn't connect. Instinctively, I called my husband, Robert, who was a firefighter, the one who said he would choose me this lifetime. The moment he answered, he just said, "I'm tied up right now," and hung up quickly. I was tightly enveloped in thick smoke. My abdomen was cramping and aching in waves. The burning furniture creaked and groaned. The fire forced me towards the balcony. Just then, a call connected. The voice on the other end was incredibly familiar. It was my husband's cousin, Jessica. I said to her, almost choking, "There's a fire here. Hurry." As I spoke, the fire consumed the curtains inside the room, instantly climbing towards me. I was so scared I froze on the spot. I only heard Jessica's mocking voice from the other end of the phone. "Sarah, it's not me. Robert took everyone to look for Emily. Only a few new guys who are still in training are at the fire station. You probably won't make it out." And Robert said before he left, she continued, "The fire started next door. He specifically locked your door from the outside. He said even if it caught fire, you'd have a chance to escape." After saying that, she added dismissively, "Stop playing these games for attention. I really want my best friend, Emily, to be my sister-in-law anyway." After hearing that Robert had locked the door, I had no desire to listen to Jessica's sarcasm anymore. After the fire gnawed away at the flower stand Robert had built for me with his own hands, the house, which held the history of our 6 years together, was completely unrecognizable. I saw blood spreading from between my legs. I hadn't expected to be reborn to this moment. In my last life, because a neighbor's child was playing with fire, the fire instantly consumed the entire floor. In my panic, the first person I thought of was my husband, Robert. He promised he would, saying I shouldn't worry, he would be there right away. The very next second, he took some of his teammates and went directly in the woods to search for his first love, who had been missing for several days. When he brought people to find me, I was just a charred and incomplete skeleton. At that time, he knelt on the ground, crying uncontrollably. He didn't eat or drink for 3 full days. Gaunt and heartbroken, he held the ashes of me and the baby, feeling like he couldn't go on living. His first love, Emily, cried and said she was sorry for me. Yet he chose to marry Emily. And he married Emily on the very date we had set for our wedding. His parents, and even my own parents, were happy for him, believing he had finally moved past the darkness. But on the day of the wedding, he jumped to his death from depression. Before he left, he said to everyone, if I could have a second chance, I would choose Sarah without hesitation. Downstairs, people had gathered. They saw me on the balcony with nowhere left to retreat from the fire. I clung desperately to the balcony railing, which was scorching hot from the fire, watching the flames nearby slowly consume the sealant on the edge of the railing. The outdoor air conditioning unit I was standing on was unstable and ready to give way. My hands and feet were swollen and red from the burns. Just then, neighbors who had escaped brought over a trampoline. There's a pregnant woman home alone. She's covered in blood. Hurry, everyone help get her down. A crowd of people below scrambled, trying to create a way for me to escape. Seeing their unfamiliar faces, sweating profusely for my sake. Some even had varying degrees of burns themselves, yet they were still dragging heavy mats, trying to ensure my safety. My heart ached with bitterness. In stark contrast, my husband of many years could only lock my door and coldly hang up on me. A single tear fell onto my arm. In a sudden instant, the fire intensified, directly covering my hand. "Quick, call the fire department for our district. Someone's going to die." More and more people started calling the fire department while also organizing the rescue themselves. Some children yelled up at me, "Jump down, big sister." My dad said, "We'll catch you." I was in so much pain I felt numb, and my mind was growing increasingly hazy. Meanwhile, as more and more calls came in, Jessica also realized something was wrong. She had originally trusted her brother completely. After all, Robert was considered an excellent firefighter. He was the one sent to share rescue experience during external exchanges. He had said before he left that the nearby older neighborhoods had been thoroughly checked for hazards, so there was no worry about fires. Jessica believed him. But with the increasing number of calls, she couldn't stay put. She could only urgently request backup from the neighboring district. But in our small town, the two districts were separated by a large river. Even with a direct bridge, it was exceptionally slow to get across. By the end, my hands were engulfed in fire. The area beneath me was already covered in blood. The railing broke. I couldn't hold on any longer and fell backward. Before I was reborn, I saw Robert's fixation on me. I instinctively took his certainty as a sign of a tragic devotion, like a martyr's. I had countless times lost myself in the love I shared with Robert, a love built on shared values and interests. In my last life, when he didn't choose me, my heart shattered. Yet, even after my death and before he jumped, holding onto my belongings, I never doubted Robert's love for me. After all, his love was so ostentatious, so passionate. And I believed it all so earnestly. But Emily's appearance made me understand clearly that Robert's love had long belonged elsewhere. Emily only had to say, "I miss you," and he would abandon his pregnant fiancée, traveled a long distance to spend her birthday with her. I cried and held on to him, even using our child to try and make him stay, but all I got was, "Stop making a scene, okay?" Emily has suffered from severe depression for years. If something happened to her, could you bear the responsibility? So late at night, he would use this excuse to leave me at home and go alone to comfort the depressed Emily. But in my last life, after I died, Robert knew perfectly well that Emily's depression could be managed with medication and therapy and didn't require him every single time, but he was willing. Emily even upheld their claim of innocence. She made Robert give her my contact information. She basically relayed every single detail of their meetings to me. For example, she'd send a photo of them together when Robert arrived. Robert bought her a cake and a bouquet of flowers on my birthday. Or even photos of them tightly embracing. Gradually, I was tormented by the display of affection between him and his first love, suffering sleepless nights. I would argue with Robert over the smallest things. I was plagued by nightmares. Every time I woke up from a nightmare, I'd instinctively check if he was still there beside me. But he was never there. My calls to him would be answered instantly by Emily. She would just say to me, "Robert is sleeping soundly. Do you want to see?" She would turn on the camera, aiming it at Robert, who was sleeping soundly, holding her. Robert's explanation for this was, depression can cause mood swings easily. If something happened, no one could take responsibility, which is why I'm staying at her place. But he never explained it to me. Time after time, he would shatter my happiness, only to give me hope again. This constant back and forth left my mental state severely worrying. When I was diagnosed with depression, he just scoffed and said to me, "Stop pretending. Don't think that just because you say you're depressed, I'll treat you like I treat Emily, or that you can stop me from seeing Emily. And couldn't you come up with a better excuse?" After I died, he found my diagnosis paper and the antidepressant medication I hadn't taken for the baby's safety, and he broke down. But in this reborn life, he knew everything, yet he still rushed heedlessly towards Emily. In this life, I wanted so much to tell those who called Robert devoted that they were wrong. His devotion was so fake. My last tear fell as the fire surged towards me. Meanwhile, all the neighbors below rushed towards me almost simultaneously. I can only say I was lucky to be caught firmly by them. But at that moment, my abdomen began to ache violently. An experienced older woman nearby screamed, "It's over. The baby's gone." The instant she finished speaking, the baby came out with the bloody discharge and left me. The surroundings fell silent for about 15 minutes. In that moment, I heard Jessica's voice. Her eyes were red with tears as she rushed towards me with a first aid kit. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I truly believed Robert had done the checks and everything was safe." She frantically gave me a basic examination. Then her face grew paler and paler, especially when she saw the fully formed fetus. Her hands were shaking. The surrounding crowd was also roused to anger, accusing the fire department of arriving so late. "You truly have no conscience. Look, the baby was fully formed. If you had arrived just a little earlier, both the baby and the mother would be safe." As they spoke, scattered crying had begun at the scene. Jessica kept saying, "I'm sorry," while also calling Robert. The first call went unanswered, the second was hung up on. The third was answered by Robert, very impatiently. "What is it?" "Robert, come back quickly. Sarah is in trouble. There was a fire at your house." She jumped from the building, and the baby came out. I heard a mocking laugh from the other end of the line. "Listen to how ridiculous you sound. The baby came out. Did Sarah teach you to say that?" She used to lie to me about being depressed. Jessica and the firefighters present all looked extremely upset. Then the call was hung up. Jessica angrily threw her phone down. "This is just too much." I weakly turned my head away, not wanting to deal with anyone from Robert's family. Soon, the ambulance arrived at the scene. I was quickly transferred to the ambulance. What kind of family is this? Leaving a 6-month pregnant woman alone at home and not coming back with such a big fire, the nurse said. The nurse spoke, pulling out a stack of papers needing signatures. "Contact the family quickly. So many things need confirmation, and they're not here. Do they not care about their wife's life?" Jessica's call connected. The moment Robert answered, he started yelling. "Sarah, that's enough. I reinforced your room before I left. There's no way the fire could have reached you there." The nurse snatched the phone and directly explained the situation. "However," he said, "you hired someone to pretend to be a doctor, didn't you?" "Sarah, I really know you now. And I'm not her husband. I won't sign this confirmation form." The moment the call was hung up, the faces of the 2 medical staff in the ambulance turned instantly pale. "The patient's oxygen saturation is dropping continuously. It's about to fall below 50. Quick, start resuscitation." When I woke up, there were scattered bloodstains on the white ceiling of the hospital room. My abdomen was tightly wrapped, like a mass of mangled flesh, as if it could collapse at any moment. I still remember the surgery. Because the fetus had come out on its own after the impact, the placenta was still inside me and hadn't been expelled. The doctor had to reach in with their bare hand to pull it out. I was wide awake the entire time. The pain of having the placenta manually removed seemed less severe than the trauma I had endured. I didn't even get a chance to see my baby before saying goodbye forever. At that moment, Jessica was sitting beside me. She was the person who used to look down on me the most. But now, she was the only one in the entire room taking care of me. She saw I was awake, wiped the tears from her eyes, and quickly used a cotton swab to wipe the corners of my mouth. "Sarah, the doctors did their best to save your uterus. They said you still have a chance to get pregnant in the future. You and Robert can have another baby." I turned my head away, avoiding her hand. Jessica froze, her arms suspended in the air. Then she gave an awkward smile. This was the first time I had acted like this since I met Robert. She was clearly still unaccustomed to it. After all, before I used to pursue him and try to please her, wanting to gain the approval of everyone in Robert's family. Because my original family wasn't good. My parents had never paid much attention to me since my brother was born. I could only get their attention by trying to please them. So I carried this habit into Robert's family. Seeing me so distant, her tears flowed even more uncontrollably. "Sarah, I know you must be blaming me. But believe me, Robert told me he had done the checks. That's why I thought you were just trying to compete with Emily for attention. You've been with Robert for so long. I kept hearing Robert say you were making things up to compete with Emily. I also thought you were the type of woman who couldn't stand any other woman getting close to her man. I truly know I was wrong. You can punish me however you want, but please, can you forgive me?" This time, I wasn't in the mood to listen to her. The tearing pain throughout my body made it impossible for me to concentrate. I looked at the children's drawings hanging on the hospital wall. My tears kept falling. I looked for a long time. It was like I saw my baby saying goodbye to me. I longed to reach out and grab him. Just then, I began. I said, if you were in my place, would you? Forgive. Forgive Robert and Emily. Honestly, Jessica froze. Her hand holding the water cup was shaking. She knew very well that no one in the situation would ever choose to forgive again. Abandoned by her husband in a sea of fire, her own child left her body before her very eyes. And while she was fighting for her life, her husband was kissing his first love. Thinking about her cousin's actions, Jessica had nothing to say. She nodded and softly said, "You're right. It's impossible to forgive." Just then, my phone rang. My hand was connected to various medical instruments. I could only ask Jessica to answer it for me. As soon as she saw it was Robert, she put it on speaker and handed it to me. After answering the call, Robert said, "Emily said she liked the bag you were carrying last time. I'm going home to get it for her. You don't mind, do you?" At this point, I was almost speechless. Him saying these words proved that from the time the incident happened yesterday until now, after I'd been rescued, this person hadn't even stepped foot inside the house. "Robert, where have you been?" Jessica asked. "At a time like this, you're talking about getting something for Emily. Sarah was in trouble. She just got out of resuscitation." Robert seemed to find Jessica and me ridiculous. He said into the phone, "Tell me, how much did Sarah pay you to speak for her like this? If something that serious had happened, wouldn't we have been notified internally by now? I haven't received a single call yet. Can't you come up with a more convincing lie?" He was so confident that I was lying about contacting Jessica. This attitude made Jessica instantly furious. She walked out of the room and yelled into the phone at Robert. "Sarah was forced onto the balcony by the fire. She jumped, and the baby is gone. How can you be thinking about discussing bags with Emily? Sarah almost didn't make it. And you still want her bag. All right, Jessica, your acting is terrible." "I don't believe it. I'm going shopping with Emily. If it's really as serious as you say, have the chief contact me." The moment the phone was hung up, Jessica was the first to burst into tears. Maybe this was too different from the brother she knew in her heart. She looked at me, crying, seemingly understanding my despair. It was as if, even with all her effort, she could only grasp a fraction of my despair. And even that was agonizing for her. And as for me, to be abandoned unconditionally, how utterly desolate. And Robert waited until the evening of the next day before finally appearing in my hospital room. The moment he pushed the door open, he pointed at me. "You bitch. What do you mean by reporting me?" When he saw my burned arms and my now flat abdomen, he froze on the spot. And the person following behind him peeked their head in and looked at me, seemingly also shocked by the scene before them. "Sarah, even if you're injured, you shouldn't report Robert. He's been suspended." Emily said this, looking concerned, while hiding behind Robert, as if I was about to hit him at any moment. Robert fiercely shielded her. Pointing at me, he said, "Why are you looking at her like that?" After a bitter laugh, I said calmly, "I didn't have the time or the ability to report you." I slowly raised my hand. It was tightly bandaged after being burned. How could I have possibly called anyone to report you? Just then, Jessica came out of the restroom, having helped me wash a urine pad. Seeing that her cousin had actually brought Emily, she instantly became furious and rushed over to slap Emily. "You harmed Sarah like this, and you have the nerve to show up." Robert shoved Jessica away. Jessica immediately bit his hand. "Robert, you're such a scumbag. Your wife is so severely injured, you actually come to see her, and the first thing you do is accuse her. So what if I'm the one who reported you?" "It was me. Didn't you say you wanted the chief to call you? So I reported you to the chief." He looked at me for a long time before finally squeezing out a single, "I'm sorry," through his fingers. But he was still holding on to Emily as he spoke. Emily didn't know anything either. Don't blame her. Emily's eyes reddened, and she lowered her head, sobbing continuously, looking as if she had suffered a great injustice. Every time I saw this, I wanted to slap her. I don't know why, but these men all seem to fall for this act. Don't they find it disgusting and fake? I looked up at Robert and saw his eyes were red from Emily's crying. He hadn't shed a single tear when he saw my horrific condition. But because he saw Emily cry, his eyes turned red. He even completely ignored me and started comforting Emily. "No one is blaming you. You're mine, mine, mine." He tenderly wiped away her tears with a wet wipe. Then pointing at me, he said, "You went to the church in the woods to pray for my baby too, didn't you? You didn't expect to get lost, did you? Pray for my baby?" I remember when she found out I was pregnant, that's not what she said. She once cursed me, saying I would die on the operating table with my baby. Jessica was there too at that time. It's just that back then, Jessica also thought I had gotten her brother through some unsavory means. After I died, Emily said the same thing. She even produced a blessed medal. At that time, she told Robert that this blessed medal was something she had knelt for a day and a night, specifically praying for it for me and my baby, so we would receive divine protection. At that time, Robert was incredibly moved, constantly comforting Emily, telling her that my death had nothing to do with her. "But that blessed medal," I said slowly, looking at Emily, "if that's the case, you can just give me the blessed medal." Just as Emily was about to speak, Jessica saw the blessed medal she was holding in her hand. She immediately snatched it. And right in front of Robert, she slowly started to unfold the folded blessed medal. Robert yanked it back. "What are you doing? Emily got this specifically for you. Even if you don't want it, you can't just destroy it like that." I ignored him and kept unfolding it. At this moment, Emily was incredibly awkward and scared, staring intently at my hand.